Hey, good evening, everybody. All right, so I've been kind of tied up with a lot of different things as far as the last couple of days, so I haven't got a chance to actually go back through and shoot a final video on this. Um, we do have the 1x4 finished. Try to get a good shot here where you guys can see what's going on here on the inside of it. This camera picks up quite a bit, so sometimes I kind of forget about just how much it actually does pick up. Anyways, got a couple of different things going on that I want to go through real quick, and then we'll uh, show you what the final results on this thing was. Let me turn on my other power supply and let it get warmed up for my radio. That way it can do its thing. But anyhow, going through this, one of the big things is, a different type of relay. This is a 3-pole instead of your standard 2-pole that you see. Not so much a big deal, but it kind of is for this particular build. Reason why is because it utilizes the 3rd pole for the biasing network. So that's one of the things. We've still got our dual feed going underneath our transformers. So each individual transistor has got its own specific wire, which we use pretty heavy gauge as far as going up into that for each one of them. We are using 5/8 core transformers, and then we go over to the 1-pill section. Everything's pretty standard on it, except for a lot of people typically use a silver dip mica. This actually has got the metal clad on it. Again, not a super big deal, but it's one of those that you'll never have to worry about it. Good evening, Time Squirrel. Yes, it is. It is an Elite series. With all the little innuendos in it. Unlike a lot of the biased amplifiers that you see out there, this one we've actually got the resistors off to the side. Everybody has seen that, but that's actually something I've been doing a lot more of these days. So that's one of them. The switch on the front, which we'll get to that. Well, let's go ahead and do that since I'd mentioned it. Okay, the switch on the front, standard up is regular AM. If you need a delay, all you got to do is just flip it all the way down. Center position is standard off. So, it gives you the option if you choose to run it, but you do have to remember it is a low drive if you're using it for sideband use. But this amp stays biased all the time. We've got oversized cable going up to the 1-pill, again, to make sure that we don't have any kind of a voltage drop here as well whenever we're driving the amplifier. Fixed capacitance on the output. There again, that's pretty normal. All right, so I think that pretty much covers everything on the input. Because there is so much that goes on between your 1-pill and your 4-pill, I'm actually doing this a little different where we're going, instead of straight out, we're actually doing a vertical down with this with a little bitty 1-watt resistor on the input on the front, standard 2-watt on the out. So, nice and easy. Several people use like a 4.7 ohm resistor. Good evening, John. So a lot of people use either a 4.7 or like a 2.7. I actually just use a 1 ohm, anywhere from a half ohm to a 1 ohm in between the two, and it's more for aesthetics than anything else. So everything's actually way overbuilt. Again, which this is something that you've been used to seeing as far as out of me, 2 8-gauge wires feeding your main bus coming in, same thing on your ground. I usually go ahead and put grounding in at least 2 different locations on the inside of my amplifiers. whenever I am adding multiple wires. So that's one of the things that you're going to see here with this as well. It just helps as far as with the load distribution that goes through the heat sink, the case, where it, essentially it utilizes everything that's here. It just gives you a little bit more. But I'm glad everybody's doing good this evening. But let's see. Let me move some slugs around here. So I've been playing with a couple of other things. Let's see. Grab that. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice about this amplifier, because of the setup, you're going to see way more RMS than peak, essentially, if you go and actually start looking, whenever you start looking at the numbers. It's designed more for the RMS than it is the peak. And for this test, we're going to be running at 14.4 volts, or in this case 14.44, where we've got it hooked into the inside. Same thing that I run. I've got a little meter off to the side here, right here, and that's what I actually go off of. That's off of the large power supply. So it's just to just kind of reiterate what we're actually running. I don't have a variable, so that's one of the other nice things. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to probably get every bit of it into the shot. We're going to try. That way you can see everything that's going on at one time. So let's grab a roll of tape, or we can try to get this set up here. Kind of see the voltage. Unfortunately, this doesn't have a little stand on it. Just a little cheap realistic. Good evening, Jeremy. It's been a while, buddy. How's the Beastmaster? Hopefully everything's going good for you as far as walking into the next going into the new year. So trying to get as much here into one shot as we can for everybody. Need to get me another kind of a meter here. All right, so let's turn the radio on. All right, so we've got our 5-watt slug and reverse going back to the radio for your input reflect. 5-watt slug in reverse coming back from the 5,000-watt bird dummy load. 2,500-watt slug in 1x position for peak, and 1,000 in the RMS. So we're going to be looking at the bottom scale here on the RMS. 2,500-watt slugs. We're going to be following the top scale here. So top and bottom. Alrighty, and then both of the others are just going to be the center scales. So one of the things we're going to start with is our pass-through. Hello, 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 audio. So no movement, so we got great pass-through tune. I'll actually grab a meter after we finish up with everything else and show you where we're at as far as on our input. Another thing that we're also using or utilizing on this build is a small relay board, or excuse me, a small keying board over here. It's nothing, super specific, but just kind of a nice little piece where, everything's all contained and off to the one side. So, all righty, let's go ahead and see what we've got here for numbers. Turn the switch on. So we'll look at our input and our output reflect here real quick, and then we'll go over to the actual meters. Hello, 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 audio. So we've got about roughly about 3 watts, or 3/10 of a watt on the input reflect. On the output, hello, audio. So just a little over 1/2 watt on the reflect. And then look at the peak and the RMS. The RMS is what I'm going to concentrate on most of all. Audio. So about 575 is what we're looking at. About 575 on the RMS. On the peak, about 800, but I did see the RMS go over to 600. My normal voice, I've been playing with that as far as different tones. My normal voice, audio, you're only going to see about 500. If I do a normal audio, or 11111 audio, audio. Wow. So that was about 650 on the RMS out of it. Still running. Where was we at here? I don't know if anybody was watching on the peak, or excuse me, on the voltmeter. So 14.1, and we're doing about 650 on the RMS. Now another thing too that we've got going on this build that is standard for this is our connectors. So one of the other things too is we're going to go ahead and grab one more meter, get this out of here. Let's find out what our RMS, or excuse me, what our amperage is. So let me grab my amp meter, check that out here real quick. I don't have one of the fancy smancy amp meters, but I do have a pretty reliable one. You know, it's not fluke. Well, thank you, John. Yeah, hopefully everybody's liked so far what they've seen out of this. All right, so let's go up here. Make sure I've got this set right, because it seems like I almost never get it set right the first time. Okay, so with the exception of the fact that it just shows a negative on it, we're just going to roll with it. Now let's see what we've got as far as on the amperage here. Audio. About 90 amps. I've seen these draw up to about 110, so 90 amps isn't bad. I wish my cables were about that much longer. Unfortunately, whenever I made them going into the workbench, yeah, well, I needed a little bit bigger than what I've got. So, all right, bring this up. Trying to get everything that I can is what you can see as far as on that. Turn that sideways. See if we can't get. Should work also on the negative as well. Trying to get that in there as well, so we can see what the amperage is during the course of that. And I don't know that I'm going to make it. So where did my roll of tape go? There it is. Bring this up just a little bit more. Audio. So I'd say it's pretty good. Like I said, a little over 600, about 650, at about 83 amps. So let's see. So if we take 14.1, let's see, 14.1 times 83, 1170, which that's usually, I think what you're doing. Let's see, 83 times 14, yeah, 1160-ish as far as on that. We're about 900 on a peak. So, all right. Like I said, this amplifier stays biased all the time, whether we're in AM mode or sideband. All right. We've ran that pretty doggone hard. Let's go back. Let's see, what am I missing out on here? Well, hello, Mr. Charles. Let's see. 80 amp draw. Yep. Like I said, between 80 to 80, between 80 to 86. I mean, I've seen 86 on it at one point. Like I said, not bad. The meter, this is made by Unity. It's pretty accurate. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's like spot on 100%, but it's a reference. That's what we're looking at. So I'm glad you got on there, Charles. Yeah, I haven't actually been on the. I haven't even been on the antenna today, as far as listening to everything. But I know you see everybody else using them ginormous power resistors as far as for your biasing. And now, granted, you're going to see on the flare that they look hot, but you're only looking at with the most we've ran, you're looking at about 93 degrees, 95. And that's with no fan on it. So these typically, and again, they're not very hot. It's above room temperature as far as on the way it feels. You see the capacitors in there where they're staying nice and cold. Same thing here on the output. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. You'll see the transistors heating up. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Audio. And essentially your capacitors on the output when you're doing a one pill, which they're running right around 80. If I can get on them, about 80 degrees. But you have to remember that this is also acting, in the same format as a capacitor. So, your hottest part, again, you're looking at these, there's no way they're 117. Sometimes you do get an off reading, unless you're just exactly on it just right. So, right around 100 degrees, everything's running super cool. And everything cools down incredibly quick too, But that's one of the, like I said, just one of the few things that I wanted to kind of share too. So I think we covered, covered current draw. Basically it's dropping 0.4 of a volt, which is pretty good chunk as far as that it's pulling down. Right now I've only got the power supply on 300 amps versus the whole 600 amps, as far as for pull down. So it's definitely got a good draw on it. But I know we've covered our heat, we've covered our amp draw, we've covered input, output, reflect, as well as the power output. Let's see here. And biasing. Let's go ahead and turn up to B and K. And we're still all hooked up. Turn that on, let it do its thing. Which this is. This is a $400 voltmeter. So I'll show you here. Let's ground that. Check the voltage. So that way you see that it is actually what it was. 14.44. The B and K. What's nice about it, especially when you get into very specifics. Essentially from about 20 or 21 volts and lower, it'll actually let me read out 3 places past the past the decimal. So really nice on that. I'm going to show you here real quick what we're running here for the biased voltage, which is 0.32, which that is ideal for these transistors. So, this is going to make somebody a great AM amplifier. The only thing I've not done is figured up an overall total for this, but I will have that done hopefully by tomorrow, because of some of the different pieces of material that's went in here. Oh, another thing too, which rarely, unless somebody specifically asks for it, rarely will you see me put in a amp remote, and this one does have an amp remote that is also wired in. So the amp remote is also installed. We've got our fan that will be hooked up to that point as well. And where is the lid? Not open. Move some stuff around. There we go. So the fan has high volume fan with the black grill and the extra badging on top. So, alrighty guys, hopefully everybody's liked what they saw today on that. South Carolina still in your receive. Well, I may need to get mine turned on. I can actually answer that here shortly, Squirrel. Like I said, I've got to figure out, because there's a few extra things. Most people generally, when they order a 1x4, they just go with a 1/2 inch, what I call the standard 1/2 inch core transformers like this. These are fairly inexpensive. The ones that I order, from BBI, they do have a little bit of a cost involved because of the size of them, the fact that they are made specifically for him. So, but I really and truly, I do like building with these in a lot of different applications. It's just a lot of people, to add the extra ones in there, that adds, roughly that adds about $20 to $25 extra for the build cost on a 4-pill. And a lot of people are looking to pinch them pennies. So that's the reason why typically I've only done those when somebody asks for them. This series, that's the only way you're going to get this amplifier is with the 5/8 core. So, traditionally, you're going to get 1/2 inch core unless you specify, or if you ask for, one of them in the Evolution series. The Evolution series is only available in biased. You can get it with or without the sideband delay, but these will be specifically 5/8 core. They will all be biased amplifiers. A 1x4, now some of the colors may change, for example, on capacitors, based on what batch that I have, but everything that you see here is basically what you're going to get with the Evolution series. So, heavy duty diodes as far as for reverse polarity protection. You're going to get your amp remote. Yeah, good. Yeah, go big or go home. Yeah. Well, that's just it. Some people, they're willing to spend the extra. Biased amplifiers do typically cost a little bit more. A lot of people don't like doing the biasing, and I've played in between repairs, and when I've had customers that have sent amplifiers in that they wanted to go ahead and have sideband biasing added. So the last two before I built this, and one of the major things that you're also going to see, the Evolution series is going to have a black face. That is, almost everything, everything that you see here, like I said, is going to be standard, whether it's going to be in a 2-pill format, a 4-pill, a 1x4. I'm not sure how far up I will take this at this time. I'm actually able to go ahead and go all the way up to a 16-pill. But there again, everything's going to be with 5/8 core transformers, and they will be biased. So, if you get into it, I'm not sure if I'm going to stop it at 8 or if I'm going to allow to go out, if I'm going to jump all the way up to a 16-pill. Everything will be in, 4s, so it'll be 2, 4, or 8. Everything will basically be doubled at that point. So from a 1-pill all the way up to at least an 8-pill is going to be available in this series. Another thing that I am going to be doing is the boards themselves are all going to have a yellow tint. So that's another one of those that when it's all said and done, everything that you see at some point will be integrated into the series. For example, I have another one started, but now this one is not going to be your normal 2879s. This one is actually going to be in the 454s, the MRF 454 build. So this one's a 6-pill. It's going to be also biased 4 sideband. For those that don't need to push everything to the extreme, it's going to be a nice little amplifier overall, I think, for somebody to use either in the mobile or the base, where you can run it essentially off of a good high-powered radio. So, just some of the upcoming things. I've got some other stuff that's coming up in the series, in the works. One of the things is, and I am working right now with cases. I have a power supply series that is going to be involved in this as well. Depending on what takes place, if I can get everything finalized by the end of this month, I'm going to try to go ahead and have a couple of power supplies that I'll be hopefully working on by the end of this month in the Evolution series. Again, they're going to have a black face, but you guys are going to really like the overall looks of them. Like I said, I've got several things that are going on and that are coming up that it's going to be really really wild. Maxwell's. Oh, you're talking about the power supply modules. That is something that I am definitely looking into. Good evening, D-Man, down there in Florida. The Meanwell power supplies are definitely really good power supplies. In the Evolution series, there's going to be 2 versions available, one of which will be with the Meanwell, but they're going to be 100 amp and above. So if you're looking at a power supply for 100 amp Meanwell, yes, you can buy just a single module. I will probably make that a 200 amp and above. You also have to remember, if I use the 100 amp Meanwell power supplies, those are 200 amp continuous duty. That is not peak or anything else. That will be a continuous duty. That will add a substantial cost to that. The cases that I have that I've got in the mix right now, I've got to finish up the paperwork and get it sent in so I can go ahead and have the cases actually drawn up in CAD and get those made. I've got at least 2 different sizes. I've got one that's going to be in a similar case. It's going to be very, very, very similar. It's going to be way overkill, but yeah, yeah, definitely, John. The Meanwell, like I said, they've got, especially if you go into the 100 amp series, those are really nice because of the fact that you can actually cut the plug off. If you've got it wired for 110, you can cut the plug off, rewire it for 220, plug it directly in, and there is a delay, which it goes ahead and it configures itself based upon the input voltage. So, like I said, you're looking at a 200 amp power supply that's going to be in excess of $1,000. Because the modules themselves are about $450, and then there's going to be some other stuff that's going to be tied in with them as well. So bear that in mind, along with the amp meters and voltmeters that are going to be put in there. These power supplies starting for a 200 amp is going to be in excess of over $1,000. So keep that in mind. I've already made a deal. I've got a case of power supply modules over here right now, and then I've got another dozen or so for some other small power supplies. I've got 2 more cases that are actually on order right now that will be used for the for the series. Like I said, there's going to be 2 different versions of that. You're looking at the Meanwell. The only thing that will go in it will be either the new power supply modules that I have on order, which are not Meanwells, or you can go with stage 2, which will be the Meanwells. Now that will be specifically on that will be specifically the 100 amp modules. So, like I said, hold on to your bippy skippy, because it's going to get deep when you start pricing those. But I've got to get everything finalized on that. So I've got a lot going on this month with figuring prices, getting product that's going to be coming in the door for some of the new things that's going to be coming up in February and March that you're going to see come across the workbench. So, yep, so one and done. But again, I think you guys are going to really like it. As far as some of the upgraded things that are going to be available, we're going to do our normal everyday stuff as well. But good evening, Charles, Mr. Hood. I haven't talked to you in quite some time. Yep. But yeah, the Meanwells. That's the only nice thing about the Meanwell, is the fact that like I said, they reconfigure themselves based upon what you need. So on those, I'm probably only going to do about 2 different. There's going to be about 2 different sizes, mainly because of the cost of the cabinets, because I will have to order several cabinets, for what I'm going to be doing. I've got to take and get some more dimensions again before I finalize everything on that. Okay, yeah, just let me know, John. Like I said, I mean, I know some of you guys are more than willing to spend the extra for the ultra high end, and that's kind of what I want to show, showcase as far as this year. We've done a lot of different things as far as just what I call the normal, the normal builds. Yeah, there's been a few little things here and there added, but like I said, this one, this series here is going to be basically dressed to the nines with everything. That's the that's the major thing. So a lot of people have asked. Nobody wants to really take on and spend the extra money, but again, I wanted to kind of show everybody, hey, look, even if you just run a normal voltage, a normal run voltage, we can go ahead and have things set up. You can get 600 watts if you've got the right voice. You can get 600 bird out of a standard 4-pill and, have everything that you want right here. But, like I said, I'll get some prices. This one will be for sale. This is 001. So this is the first one of its kind. I've got the second one over there, but it's going to be with the 454s whenever it's finalized. I've done several 2-pills and 4-pills. This one's going to be the first 6-pill. So, it's going to take me a little bit of time to get everything finessed and to suit me on it. Again, based on the build. Now that is kind of an exception. It's not going to have the 5/8 core. Why? Because it's a 80 watt. I think it's an 80 watt max transistor, 60 or 80 watt, and it really won't tune with a 5/8 core. So again, that's kind of an exception to the rule. It'll probably be the only one of its kind, honestly. As far as in the 6-pill, but I've had a couple of people ask me about it, so it's like, well, I need to go ahead and build one, and well, here it is. We're starting. All right, guys. Hopefully everybody's appreciated the little bit of time we spent here on this. Like I said, we've kind of cherry picked, through a lot of different pieces and parts, some of them from different vendors, and from some of the guys that have, really amped up the community, if you will. I don't have the finances to be able to go ahead and have a large portion of things created for myself. That's the reason why I'm just going to go ahead and continue like I'm doing, as long as BBI will supply me with these. We're going to go ahead and stay with that. I've been buying those from him for the last 4 years, I believe. So, and every one of them I've been very pleased and very impressed with. So, all right, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed, like I said, a little time we spent here today. I know we spent, roughly half an hour, but just wanted to kind of go through multiple different things that we've got coming up, show you guys finalized video on this. Hopefully we've covered everything for you as far as on the amp draw. I'm actually surprised this one wasn't a little hungrier than what it is. I've seen these draw anywhere from, the 80, 85 amps to a maximum of 110. So, eventually I'll get me another amp meter, and then that way I can confirm, because without having at least 2 amp meters, it's kind of hard sometimes to know 100%. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the evening. I've still got 2 amps to get boxed up and some cables, so I can get those out Monday morning to the people that are waiting for their stuff. But guys, thanks again. We'll catch you on the rebound.